This is Sofaville Presents, Episode 11, Enigma, with Nathan Lang as Maurice Fong and John Bond as Nigel with a newspaper.
Did you know a hamster can eat its own weight in vegetables every 3 minutes?
No.
Yes. It can put some in its stomach, some in its cheeks for later, and the rest it digests immediately and throws it through the bars of its cage like a rugby ball.
Right.
Rugby was invented when a schoolboy was playing football with his class and picked up the ball instead and ran off with it. He told him he was inventing a new game, but I think that's what I would say as well if I thought I was going to get in trouble. I mean, at my school, if I'd wrecked a game like that, they'd have given me a week's detentions and taken away my milk privileges. But Mr. Smartbollocks does it, and they name the school after his sport, and they name the town after his sport. It's unbelievable!
I think you'll find the sport was named after those things.
Well, that can't be right at all. Rugby? Whoever called something rugby? I mean, that's like calling your town football or shove halfpenny. No, I don't think that's right at all. I think you might want to check up on that one. If a lion could speak, we still wouldn't know what it was saying.
They're African.
Pardon?
They're African. So you wouldn't understand them anyway. Unless you know any African languages.
I do not.
Well, there you go then.
Foxes are English. I could speak to a fox.
And what would you say to this theoretically English-speaking fox?
Oh, I don't know. Bugger off my lawn, probably.
I don't think you need to speak English to understand that.
It'd help.
Don't be absurd. The mere sight of you would be enough for the fox to get the message. English doesn't bloody well come into it.
I might add nuances. You hadn't thought of nuances, had you? Yeah, it's nuances that separate us from the wild world. Foxes, weasels, stoats. What would you say to a stoat?
Please shut up, I'm trying to read my paper. Same as I'd say to a human being.
The first newspaper was written by the Sumerians in 4300 BC and was merely a list of complaints from the elders about the smell from the River Nile.
The River Nile? That's ridiculous.
Why?
The Sumerians lived nowhere near the River Nile.
Exactly. Hence the complaint.
You're making this up.
I'm not.
You are. You're a bloody liar. Go on, pull another one out like possums were used as coinage in ancient Greece before notes were introduced, and the Pony Express was a form of early mail system where people wrote on the sides of ponies and sent them running roughly in the direction of the recipient.
I would never say that.
Oh, really?
Yes. It wasn't ancient Greece, it was ancient Mesopotamia. The Greeks used coatis. I'm well read.
You're an idiot.
Not technically, I'm not. I've been reviewed.
Oh, Christ. Well, what are you in here for?
I'm an enigma.
Oh, I should have known.
They don't know what's wrong with me. I went to see my general practitioner, Mr. Wordles, and I showed him my lump. He said it was like no lump he'd seen. I thought, well, that's special. He prodded at it with a ballpoint pen for a bit, you know, all exploratory like. Then he said he didn't know it was a lump at all. Well, a lump that isn't a lump? That's got to be a first. So I asked him what it was if it wasn't a lump. I was hoping he'd either know what the lump was or refer me to some specialist in lumps, you know, like an ear, nose and lump doctor. But he just said I should go home and keep an eye on it and to tell him if it changed at all. It didn't change, though. It just moved. First it was where it was, you know, but then it was on my foot. I thought, that's weird, there's a lump on my foot. What's a lump doing there? I mean, there are quite a few lumps on my foot, but no more than most people have. I don't think so, anyway. I don't really study other people's feet that much. Horrible, fleshy right angles of bones and pointing. I'd rather not look at them myself. Or I couldn't be a foot specialist. Ear, nose and foot? No, not me. But interesting. There's your big toe. Well, that's important for balance, isn't it? I mean, you don't want to fall over. Imagine a world where people kept falling over. This place would be full for a start. They'd never get anything done. Can you give me a liver transplant Tuesday week? You'd say. No, they'd say. The big toe ward's taken all our resources. Of course, they wouldn't call it the big toe ward because there'd be no big toes. No, it'd be called the Sir David Jason ward for falling injuries or some such, you know. Something appropriate, classy. Not the Danny Dyer ward for falling flat on your arse, no. Ankles! Wow, of course, they're there as a sort of foot keeper honour for your leg, aren't they? Like an hinge. Big joint thing. I mean, if you think having no big toe was an issue, imagine having no foot joints. No, ankles are pretty important. So, I went back to Mr. Wordles and showed him a foot lump, and he was stolen for sentences. He looked at my foot in his hand, made some noises, considering, like, you know, and then he told me to put my sock back on and told me to report back if anything changed. I said, it has changed. It's moved from my, you know, to my foot. But he didn't believe me. He said it was an entirely new lump, and even that he didn't think it was a lump at all, and that maybe I just had naturally lumpy feet and made a sort of sighing noise and sent me on my way. At least when I was 8, they'd give you a sugar-free lollipop, but now not so much as a buy your leave. Well, I've never been so offended in all my life, so I reported him to the council and said I wanted him struck off. Dear Sir / Madam / to whom it may concern, I wrote, I hereby write unto thee to report my former general practitioner, Mr. Norsley Wordles, Cannock Woods Surgery, Launceston, for ignoring my lumpy feet and treating me with the disdain of the rejected. I wish for him to be struck off of the register of general doctor people and for him to be replaced forthwith with a gentleman of good standing, preferably specialising in feet or related. Yours disgustedly, Maurice Fong, Esquire. Mr. in brackets. Then I put my address and dated it, you know, to make it all official-like. So I waited. 5 days later, a letter comes and it's all curt and inappropriate, saying they didn't deal with such things and that I needed to contact my local health authority. Well, I've never been so insulted in all my life, so I said I wanted a better response, and they said it was the official line the council gave, and they weren't going to enter into further correspondence on the matter. I thought, well, I'll get another council, so I moved flat to another authority and wrote to them instead, but they said the same thing, albeit this time it was with much less polite words, but better notepaper, fancier area, you know. I tell you, I've never been so... Anyway, have you brought any food with you? I can't eat sandwiches. They get all stuck in my throat like... and I have to either fish it out with my fingers or make myself sick to get rid of it. If I don't, and it does somehow get into my system, then it all goes wrong downstairs. Illic acclade in brachis, as the Romans would say.
There's a disaster in your trousers?
Sorry?
There's a disaster in your trousers. You just said that in Latin.
Why do you know Latin?
I studied it partially in medical school.
You're a doctor?
Yes. I'm having my tea break out here for a change, and now I'm going to go back, and I'll tell you something.
Hmm?
The only lump you've got is the rotten walnut you mistakenly call the brain. Good night.
That's exactly what Dr. Wardle said.
You've been listening to Enigma with Nathan Lang as Maurice Fong and Jon Bond as Nigel with a newspaper. Recorded in May 2022, Enigma was written and created by Ronald Moger for This Is Sofaville. We are always looking for talent to get involved in our productions. If you're interested, please contact us through our social media pages where we'll be happy to tell you more about the project. Thank you for listening.